always behave the same way. The best predictor of how you're going to behave is how you've behaved all along, right? So there's that old adage, right? The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So there's a lot of holes in that psychological theory, and it's more of a pop culture theory than anything. It's really about pigeonholing people into their behavior, and then that actually incites behavior. They are expecting this from me because I have always done this, right? So I'm going to challenge you, Anne, the best predictor of past behavior. So if we want to think about the best predictor of future behavior is the past, I'm going to invite you to spin it, and we're going to say the best predictor of past behavior is the present, right? And so then we actually can say the best predictor of our future behavior is how I am presently behaving because I am presently creating my past, right? You can rewrite how things go. You can have that control over your responses, over your behavior. We have endless choices for how we're going to choose to behave in a situation, but it's so much easier, less resistance, less brain work, less energy, less emotional attachment if we just rely on those past behaviors and how we've always behaved, right? But it's if you are, and I believe you are watching this because you are interested in creating the life you desire, in transforming into your best and highest self. And that's a lifelong thing where, I mean, once you're there, you're not here. So we'll always be doing that, right? But to know that you have that control and that the power lies in the present moment. I feel like I'm going to make a shirt or something, right? It's in the pause. If we create a pause with everything, we're giving ourselves that opportunity to create new pasts, to create new options, right? So, a lot of times, like I just said, we're always kind of rote. We're just going through the motions. This is how I always get in the car. This is how I always start it. This is how I always do my breakfast. This is how I always do my lunch, right? This is how I always interact with this person because they piss me off, right? This is how I react with this person because I'm craving their acceptance and love, right? So if we intentionally pause before anything, right? And a pause doesn't need to be like a half an hour, give me a minute. I got to think about how I want to react to this. A pause is just the birthplace of miracles. That's pretty dramatic, right? And I stand by it. It sounds dramatic, but it is. A miracle is simply just a shift in your perception. A miracle is just seeing things a bit differently, right? So I'm going to use myself for an example. I used to drink and drink a lot. And if we were going by this model of past behavior predicts our future, the best predictor of my future behavior is my past, odds are, odds are, given my lifetime of 50 years, people would think I would drink tonight. I have spent less time not drinking in my 50 years than I have drinking. I drank away that brain cell to help me make that connection. But still, right? So odds are, but the people who know me and know how I live presently would not bet on those odds of my past behavior. it is in the present that I am creating that I don't drink. I just don't. And so I am creating my future by living in the present and pausing. So now that window of pause has gotten smaller because I have created behaviors and routines that I like that allow me to enter each situation, each event, each person, place, and thing with my new behaviors, right? So when I first stopped drinking and started to make different choices of how I would react to situations, how I would react when I was celebrating, how I would react when I was sad, how I would react when I was bored, how I would react when I was scared, right? Creating new behaviors. When that window, when my odds were heavy on the other side, that pause was a little bit bigger. I had a lot more internal dialogue around why I was choosing a different way, right? Why I chose for my mind, body, and soul, not just my body. People often think they stop drinking because it's toxic to your body, which it is, but it's toxic to your mind, body, and soul, right? And so when you stop and look at how you want to create your life, you can take away the word drinking alcohol for eating sugar. You can take it for reacting in defensively. That's just the behavior, right? That was just my go-to behavior for things. So I am not here to preach quit drinking at all. Do whatever. I don't think everyone has any of the problems that other people have with drinking, but it's your choice, right? It's how you want to do. I mean, sometimes it might be the lesser of many evils, but off track. I really just wanted to say with that it's this isn't a teetotaling little session. This isn't jump on my bandwagon. I'm all for however anybody wants to live their life. That is a principle that I try really hard to live by is non-judgment and forgiveness. And so that is how I'll practice that. But using that example of that was my go-to for everything, I had to create new. And I couldn't create it with the past, right? So each present moment, making a new decision on how I was going to celebrate, how I was going to treat my mind, body, and soul when I felt stressed or tired or left out or defeated or happy. I pretty much did whenever I felt like I had a change in emotion. So it was in that pause. So the point of this teachings, and I feel like it went off on a tangent, but is to invite you to create your present pause to make choices that support the future identity that you want to embrace, right? If you want to be somebody that uh, strengthens their muscles and has core strength and combating your osteoporosis, all of that, would you be somebody that paused in the morning and said, I'm going to spend some more attention, or in the afternoon, really, it doesn't matter, in the like to say, I'm going to spend some time lifting some weights, whether it's even my own natural body weight, whether it's I pick up 15 pounds, whether I pick up 5 pounds, right? You have to create the habit to support that identity, right? So I no longer wanted to be a drinker. I needed to create a habit, many habits, so that that wasn't my go-to. I had to create the habit of being a non-drinker. And after 7+ years, it is very rote in my world. I don't really think much about it because I enjoy who I have created and who I'm creating myself to be, right? So you have to think of it like if I was to say, introduce myself to you guys, that I am somebody who dyes my hair, you would be like, well, your behaviors don't really support that. How can you tell me that you're somebody who dyes your hair? How can you stand? And no one's going to believe me, right? I used to be, and there was a time where I could say that, and it was quite obvious that I was somebody that dyed my hair, right? So, this is a very simplistic way to say we have to create habits to support the identity. And with that old adage of the best predictor of future behaviors is the past, takeaway is we create our past in the present. Our past isn't really created in the future, and it's already been created in the past. It's in this moment right now, the choices that you make are creating your past, which is going to predict your future. So, what do you want to create? Who do you want to be? What are some values that are missing from your life that you want to bring in and embrace? And how can you do that? How can you use the strengths that are inside of you, the things that make you you, right? To create the identities of the person that has those values, right? It's this relationship of our values and our strengths. And we can definitely bring in ways that are unique to each individual to support what you want to do and who you want to become. And what I love the most about this is it is very, very, very natural and quite expected that we have these feelings of unsettledness with who we are often. We are evolving, right? I've never met a woman in their 50s who was like, I read the same books that I read when I was 8, and I play with the same toys, and I have the same friends, and I have the same likes, have the same values as when I was 8, or even 28, right? I've never run into somebody who says, yeah, those things that I did in my 20s are just still such a core part of my identity. Maybe there's some, maybe you volunteer somewhere, but it's in this evolving. We aren't supposed to remain the same. We are supposed to always be creating our futures in the present moment. That's what I love doing. I got on this morning for myself because I have a list. I was working with my coach, and I have kind of like an accountability list with her of things that I want to incorporate in my life. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I want them, but my past behaviors need to change, because I'm falling into those old behaviors in the present. So I'm never going to obtain my future goals if I myself rely on my past behaviors, right? I'm looking at my list right now. I have a weird thing with words. You all know that. So I want to create a daily movement and strength work program. I like the word movement over exercise, and I really don't like the word strength training. I think the words exercise and training just for some reason bring up almost even something that I don't want to be in the future, right? Anyways, um, we're doing daily movement and daily strength work, right? And so I just met with my coach last night, and so I have this accountability list, and I did it. Was it huge? Was it what maybe my neighbor does? Was it what some other people do for their movement and their strength work, right? Or maybe their exercise and their strength training? All means the same thing. I just am choosing words that help put me in a space that resonates and aligns with me. You do you. But if I don't, I'm never going to reach that future goal of being somebody who embraces a daily movement program, right? And it can be a minute, it can be an hour, it can be whatever it ends up being, but it's daily. So when we make our goals, we really want to be specific of what our kind of rules for ourselves are, right? Some people it's, 3 miles a day. Some people it's 20 steps to the mailbox and back. Whatever it is, what the behavior is creates the identity. Doesn't matter if it's 20 steps to the mailbox or 3 miles. It's the behavior that creates the identity. So that's just one of my little accountability lists that I have to do. Another thing was to get this teachings and tangents out because I have been missing in action and truly in action for the last almost 2 months. So I do hope you enjoy this episode of Teachings and Tangents and know that on my accountability list, there is to do a few more of these. So there'll be more coming. And with that, if there's any way that I can support you in creating your future self, creating the identity that you want to embody, please reach out. It's what I love to do. It's what I'm here for. And I hope to hear from you all.